everybody, welcome back. If you are a returning viewer, welcome if you are new. My name is Addie and this is the Knits by AJ Knitting Podcast, episode 11. It's been 2 weeks since my last podcast and I have got a fair bit of knitting to share today. I've got 3 finished objects, 4 whips, and some acquisitions as well. I'm not feeling 100% today, so bear with. I know I say this like every episode because it seems like we're always ill, but that's just life with a toddler who's not really a toddler anymore. She's coming up to 4. But yeah, it seems to be that every week that I podcast or I sit down to film is the week that we get sick, and then the weeks that I have off seem to be fine. And then if I try and change that, because like I'm offset, because the last one I had 3 weeks between podcasts, it just seems to be that it doesn't matter if I change it, we still get sick in that week. So I apologise if I sound a bit funky, and there are a lot of cuts because I don't feel like anybody wants to sit here and watch me cough and sneeze. So yeah, apologies for that. And if you hear any coughing or sneezing, my husband is at home today and he is also not feeling 100%. So if you hear any of that in the background, hopefully you won't, then I apologise. But such is life, and we're just rolling with it. Hopefully it will stop at some point and there won't be this many illnesses and we'll get through it. But I just guess it's the time of year as well, isn't it? Like you get to winter and everybody's sick all the time, but you know, such is life. But yeah, should we get into the nitty gritty? I've gone through 10 episodes and not said that, and now I have said it. Oh well. Right. Okay, so yeah, finished objects. Right, sorry if I am looking over here as well. I've propped my notes up over here today to stop me sort of getting distracted by a window over there. But yeah, notes are over here. Knitting is down here. And yeah, okay, so first finished object is my husband's hoodie, which I showed last week, and it was, so I think I was on the body last week. I've ordered some not stitch markers, progress keepers off Etsy, which have not arrived yet but should hopefully be arriving soon, so that I can actually like put a progress keeper in each podcast, and then we can kind of track my progress over the podcasts, because I don't know, I just think it'll be really interesting to see actually how much progress I can make between filming, and that would just be the easiest way to show it, really, won't it? As long as I remember to put the progress keepers in. But yeah, so this was a whip last time and is now not a whip, and this has kind of been like my sole whip really, over the past couple of weeks. It's been my main project, because I just wanted to get it off of the needles so that it could get some wear before it warms up, because this is knit in Cascade 220 in the colour Jet, and it's not the super wash version, so it is quite warm, which is quite good for now because it's still really quite chilly in the mornings, and it's not, we have days where it's like 15 degrees, and then other days where it's like 2. So it's quite good layering piece. But yeah, here it is, and I'm gonna get my husband to pop this on so I can take some B-roll, because it's so difficult to show. But yeah, here we are. So I think the last time I was about here on the body. I vaguely remember having to take a stitch marker out of this pocket. So yeah, I think I was about here. And now obviously we have finished. So I popped the sleeves on and did the hood. I did a slight, so if you've been around for a long time, you would have seen that I already knit one of these for my husband, and it ended in disaster really. It grew in blocking, and so we gifted it to one of our really good friends. So yeah, that one, it had a hood where you essentially just picked up the stitches at the neckline and then carried on knitting and then just grafted them together. But on this, oh sorry, I should properly mention, so this is a self-drafted pattern. I didn't use a published pattern for this, I wrote it myself. I guess. So yeah, so it's got this like faux, I'm not sure if this is going to show, it's got like this faux seam up the hood, and it's also like all down the body in the raglan and down the sleeves as well. So on the last one I knit, you couldn't see this faux seam on the top of the hood because I just couldn't figure out a way to make it like streamline into where it already was because you're changing direction. Whereas this time I essentially picked up the stitches, knit a panel, and then when I got to the top, picked up the stitches down the edges and then like knit forwards. So you've got the like faux seam detail that goes all the way up and then around and to the top of the hood as well, all the way up to the like double knit button band. And so yeah, it's got a slightly different hood on it, and that worked out quite well. And it's, I mean, the hoods on these things, because I've knit one for myself and one for my daughter as well, they are enormous. So yeah, it's just, yeah, it's different. And then yeah, I just picked up the stitches around the front and the neckline, front and the hood, and knit the double knit button band, popped in the buttons, and yeah, this time I also decided to add pockets as like an afterthought. So how am I going to show this? I will get some B-roll obviously, and I'm sure I will have put this in by now. And so what I did was picked up stitches at the top of the ribbing and then essentially just knit a, what is that, maybe like an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches of stockinette back and forth, and then just did some decreases to shape the pocket and cast off, and then I seamed it on the top down towards the button band, and then a little bit at the bottom as well, just so that when you put something in it's not going to fall out. And then I just did a double knit edging on that so that it didn't curl. But I think that's worked out really well. I used one of his existing hoodies, like a shop bought hoodie, as reference. So I measured all the pocket measurements and everything on that, and essentially just knit one to match. And I think it's worked out really, really well. I mean, obviously they're not going to be, I wouldn't put tons of stuff in them because otherwise they're going to stretch. But because they're seamed to the actual hoodie, I think it's worked out quite well in the fact that it's quite sturdy. It's got that extra structure there from the seam instead of just being kind of like pulling on the fabric of the hoodie. But yeah, I think it's worked out. How many times am I going to say? But yeah, I think it's. But yeah, I think it's worked out really, really well. He's very happy with it. I think he would be wearing it today if it weren't for the fact that I needed it to show in this podcast. I used 4mm needles for the main body of this, and then 3.5mm for the button band and the ribbings. And yeah, I think that's all I've got really to say about it. This one did not grow massively in blocking. It's stayed a relatively good size and shape. It's still quite big on my husband, but to be honest, we wanted it as like a layering piece anyway, and he's very happy with it. I'm very happy with it. And yeah, I think we can now put this one to bed. Its saga is ending until I knit another one. But I think the non-superwash yarn is definitely much more successful than the superwash drops extra fine merino that I was using before. And the buttons that I used were just some buttons that I got from our local haberdashery, and they're just these black plastic buttons. I don't know how big they are. I think they're more than an inch, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not very good at buttons. I just pick the most plain buttons. Perhaps I will start looking into some much more fancy buttons for anything else. But yeah, it was just something that needed to be put on there, and now it is. So we can put this one to bed now. We can stop going on about it because it's done and it's successful. The only thing I have left to do on it is not like integral, so I'm considering this a finished object anyway, but I added in some extra holes at the bottom of the hood, so there's one here and one here, to add a tie into the, like, thread it through the inside of the button band, because when you do a double knit button band it's like a tube. So yeah, to make it more like a commercial hoodie, I will be knitting a big long I-cord, and I'll pop that through there, but I'll do that at a later date. I just couldn't be bothered to do it last night. I wanted to knit other things and it's not like integral, so yeah. Right, so that was finished object number 1, and as always I have forgotten to say what I am wearing today. So today I am wearing my zipper sweater by Petite Knit, and I knit this up in Drops Charisma and Drops Kid Silk, and I knit this, I think it was like 2 years ago now. I knit one for all of us. I knit one for my husband, one for me, and one for my daughter. And mine and my daughter's are both in Drops Charisma and Drops Kid Silk, and my husband's is in Drops Alaska. But it looks like this. It's really, really massive. The only substitution I did was I changed, so the collar on the actual zipper sweater on the women's version is twisted rib, and I just don't really enjoy knitting twisted rib, so I decided to just sub it for regular 1x1 rib. And to be honest, I wouldn't suggest doing that because it has meant that my neckband, well, that plus the fact that I used a superwash yarn in the Drops Charisma is a superwash yarn, it's meant that my neckline has stretched out quite a lot. So you can see it's like, so this is the end of my shoulder and it's like here, so it's kind of stretched out massively, but I'm not mad about it because the one other thing that I'll say about this is that if you are going to knit this, buy an extra ball of yarn, because I ran out of yarn when I was knitting this, and so had to pull back and bind off early, and so it's not quite as long as I wanted it to. And then because I used superwash, my sleeves stretched out quite a lot, but I quite like that. I like the fact that I can turn them over. I think it adds to the sort of look of this finished garment. But I think if I was going to knit this again, I'd probably do the zipper sweater light, because I don't get that much wear out of this. It's not warm enough to be worn like out on its own as like an outerwear piece, but it's too warm to wear inside quite a lot. So yeah, it's too warm to be worn inside over the top of like a long sleeve tee or anything like that. So today I've just got it on over the top of a camisole, and I'm okay, but it is cold today, so, and I'm in a room that doesn't have a massive radiator and the heating's not been on. So yeah, it's I like it. I wouldn't knit this version again. I'd knit the zipper sweater light, but that's that. Okay, right, so finished object number 2 is, so everything apart from my husband's hoodie fits in this bag that I've got. Oh, and a ball of yarn has fallen out. Fits in this bag that I've got from WILLOWBAY Handmade, and this is like the largest one that you can get, and yeah, I'm just really impressed with it. This is like my only project bag, and I want more because I love it. And the thing I'm looking for is not here. Right, so my second finished object is my daughter's Musselburgh hat. So this is the Musselburgh by Ysolda TEAGUE. It's everywhere at the moment. I think there's even a knit along going on. Maybe that's finished. I can't remember. But yeah, so this is the second Musselburgh that I have knit and shown on this podcast, and this one is knit up in Wildflower yarns, sparkle sock base, in the colour unicorn, farts, and I used the adult small / child size, and I used 3mm needles, and I got 6.5 stitches per inch. So I followed the instructions for that size, and So this is now done. It's obviously folded in on itself at the moment. This is what the yarn looks like. And then here it is fully extended. I don't know. Oh, it's a big one. So I did get a bit of growth in blocking. My final length between the end of the increases and the beginning of the decreases was 19 inches, and then after blocking it was 20 inches. So this is it's a big hat, but I wanted to make it as long as I could, really, without it being ridiculous, because I want this to be something that she can continue to wear as she grows. Her last hat was an Oslo hat, which I mentioned last week, and she is like almost grown out of that. Like if she has her hair up, then she can't wear that hat because it doesn't cover her ears. Whereas this one, if she has her hair up, then she can still pull it down over her ears, and still have a folded brim with it, because it's just it's got that extra bit of slouch in the top, and then obviously as she grows it should be big enough for her to still fold it up and everything. So yeah, it's quite a large hat. It's not like a baby hat or anything, and so she usually wears it with a fold like this. It's so soft. It's absolutely wonderful. She is really excited about it, and I'm so glad that I chose such a bright, colourful, sparkly yarn for her, because like if you can't have those things when you're 3, then when are you going to have them? So I used 90 grams of the 100 gram skein, so about 405 meters roughly, and it's given me, like, I really like knitting these on 3mm needles. I know that a lot of people get a much smaller gauge. They get more sort of like 8 or 9 stitches per inch, but I think the 6.5 stitches that I get per inch gives the most wonderful fabric. Like it's light and airy, but because you get, if you're doing a folded brim, you get 4 layers of fabric over your ears. It's still so lovely and squishy and soft and warm, and I think it's perfect. I mean, I wouldn't consider going down a needle size to get a smaller gauge, but if you live in a colder climate or you don't run quite as hot as my 3-year-old, then yeah, I would like a smaller gauge may help. But yeah, I just think this is really lovely, a 6.5 stitch gauge, and I'm not sure what else I really got to say because I've already knit one of these before, and I have another one on the needles to show you later. So I, this year, have been trying to track my, like, how long it takes me to knit things on Ravelry. So I've been trying really hard to put in like my start and finish dates for all of my projects, as well as actually get them up on Ravelry, because I have been notoriously bad at doing that in the past, and so this year I'm making a real push to be more, to like log my knits a bit better. So I started this project on the 9th of January and I cast it off on the 5th of February. So this was on my needles for 31 days. But I am not a monogamous knitter. I don't only have one project on at the time. These hats are not a huge priority because everybody has a hat at the moment. So I have just been knitting them as like casual, pick it up, easy breezy stockinette in the round. And yeah, I am really happy with how they turn out, and I like having them as like comfort knitting, like watching telly, knit round and round on a Musselburgh, in the car, knit round and round on a Musselburgh. Yeah, so that is my daughter's Musselburgh hat, and now she can go off and wear it. I'm going to put a little label on the turn up here so that I can put her name tag and stuff in it, because she wants to wear this to nursery, and so can't send her off without a name tag on it. But yeah, that is my daughter's Musselburgh, and it is the sparkly rainbow hat of dreams. So my third finished object is a pair of socks, but not a pair of socks for me. My daughter came to me the other day and said, "Mummy, I would like hand knit socks like you and Daddy. And so I can't say no. And so I knit her a pair of hand knit socks, and they look like this. How cute are these? They're so dinky. I haven't got a pair of my hand knit socks to hand to show how small these are compared to mine, but they are tiny. I mean, not as tiny as the baby socks I used to knit her. So I used to knit my daughter quite a lot of pairs of socks. And then she kind of went off them and became one of those children who was like, no, I don't want to wear socks anymore, mummy. Socks are for losers. And now she has come back round and she asked for these. So I used the leftover yarns from two of my two previous Musselburgh hats. So this pink that I've used for the cuff, toe and heel is pigment and ply sock. So it has 75-25 base, merino nylon blend. I'm not explaining this particularly well. It's from her Midnights collection, and it's the cheap ass screw top rose, which I used for my sister's Musselburgh, which I knit for her for Christmas. And then the leg is the leftover yarn from her Musselburgh, so the Wildflower yarns sparkle sock in unicorn farts. And then I was playing serious yarn chicken in knitting these, and so I was weighing it as I went, and I only had, I had less than half. No, if I'd carried on, I was going to have less than half if I knit the whole of the first sock in the Wildflower yarns. And so what I did is when I got to the heel, I knit the heel in the contrast because I had plenty of that to knit heels, cuff and toes for a toddler sock. And so when I got to the heel, I then alternated with I think it was West Yorkshire Spinner's signature 4-ply in the colour Milk Bottle. I had like a couple of tiny balls of that left over in my like sock yarn basket that I thought, I could just knit a couple of stripes or something if I wanted to do like a sports sock. But yeah, so I used that to then alternate as I went down the sock. And so it's ended up giving us like these little speckled stripes. So that was one, and then the other one, which I think is a really nice touch, to be honest. And because this bit's going to be in her shoe, I don't really think it's going to matter. And then obviously the toe is in the pigment and ply. So yeah, really good little stash busting project. She has worn these, so I had to hide these this morning because she wanted to wear them again. But she has worn them non-stop since I cast them off and sewed in the ends on them. So yeah, these have worked out really, really well. I just did a vanilla sock from what I remembered knitting from her previously. About 44 stitches tend to be a good size for kids socks. So yeah, I just cast on 44 stitches, did what is it, like 14 rounds of 2x2 rib, and then I just did 20 rounds for the leg, and then I did a classic heel flap and gusset, and then 35 rounds after the gusset decreases for the foot, and then just did a standard wedge toe, and just, yeah, sort of, ooh, cute little pair of vanilla socks for my little girl. I use 2mm needles like I do for all of my socks. These fit her really, really well. They've got a little bit of room in the toe for her feet to grow because their feet grow so quickly. But yeah, so that's those. I cast these on the 9th of February and I cast them off on the 9th of February, so they only took me one day to knit, but they are very, very small, and yeah, it didn't take very long at all. So yeah, wouldn't suggest knitting a pair of socks in a day, but can do it if they are small person socks. So yeah, those are my finished objects, and now we are into my whips, which is the exciting place as always. So my first whip is, as always, at the bottom of the bag. Why do I do this? Why do I always put the one that I want to talk about first at the bottom? Right, so my first whip is my Dot Sweater Kids, which is a jumper that I'm knitting for my daughter, and it's patterned by Knitting for Olive, and I'm knitting it in Cascade Heritage, and I'm still not sure what this colour is, and the Lonely Knitter 7525 sock in Hold the Door. So these are my main colour, and I'm alternating those every other row. And then my contrast colour is Under the Olive Tree Yarns 7525 sock in Fiesta Beach, which is this beautiful, super duper colourful yarn. Can't think of words. Anyway, so last time I showed this, I didn't put a stitch marker in this to see where I was. I think I had done one pattern repeat after splitting for sleeves, so maybe I was about here on this row of blue. Maybe, yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, maybe I was there, or maybe I was slightly above. I'll have to look back and check. So since then I have finished the body and I have done the ribbing, and I did a like contrast cast off bind off on the bottom in the contrast yarn to match what I did at the collar ribbing, and I'm knitting this in size 2 on 3.5mm needles and 2.75mm needles, and yeah, I showed this last time and nattered on about it for ages. So yeah, just done the body. I did add in an extra pattern repeat at the bottom to add some length because I'm knitting this in age 2 and my daughter is nearly 4, but she is petite but tall. So yeah, I've just decided to kind of go off her measurements because otherwise I think it's going to drown her, and she doesn't really like anything too big, bulky, lots of fabric and everything, so I've decided to go for a smaller size. Either way, and I think this pattern, the next size, so it goes 1, 2, 4, and the next one was just going to give her way too much ease. But either way, yes. So this is what it's looking like now. So I've done, yeah, finished the body and I started the sleeve, but I was doing really, really well, and I thought that I was going to have this finished for this episode, but I just find it completely intolerable knitting 3, well, essentially, so this is supposed to be 2 colour work, but because I've decided to alternate my main colours because I was going to run out of yarn, it's become 3 colour work essentially, and I just find it really intolerable knitting it magic loop. So I have ordered myself a pair of 3.5mm shorties, but they haven't arrived yet, so I haven't progressed any further on the sleeve. But I've done what, 1 row of dots on the sleeve, and I just, yeah, I really love knitting this and I love how it's turning out, but I find it really difficult knitting magic loop with 3 colours and keeping gauge and making it look tidy as well. I don't like it, so I've decided not to do it, and I'm gonna I've ordered myself some new needles to be able to do it on short circulars, which I think is actually going to work out really well for me because I do a lot of things in DK, and so a 3.5mm needle will mean that I can do cuffs and everything, and also I knit double knit socks on 3.5mm needles. So yeah, I'm really enjoying how this is turning out, and hopefully I will have this finished next time I podcast. So I started this on the 21st of January, and so as of today I've had this on the needles for 22 days. So I don't think that's too bad, to be honest, because I've also not been monogamously knitting on this, and I did spend a lot of time finishing off my husband's hoodie. So yeah, hopefully we'll be having this finished very, very soon. As soon as those needles arrive, I think I'm just going to fly down these sleeves. And yeah, really enjoying it. Enjoying it so much that I have also cast on something else with polka dots. I'm having a real polka dot moment at the moment. So yeah, that is that one. I'm trying to be a little bit more concise when talking about my whips, because otherwise I feel like I'm just rehashing everything when I've already spoken about them quite a lot. So yeah, just going to do more of like a progress thing, and just show you how much I've done since the last episode, and then we can have a big chat about them when I start and finish them. I don't know. I hope, does that work out better for everybody? I mean, it must be really boring hearing me rehash the same things every week if you watch me every week, which I know a lot of people don't, which is fine. But yeah, let me know. Would you rather me talk about them in full every week, or would you rather me just kind of go over how much progress I've made and my thoughts from that 2-week period? Let me know in the comments down below. So whip number 2 is my test knit that I'm doing for Iris of HIRISMAKES, and it is her summer cable top pattern, and I am knitting this in Filcolana Saga in the colour Peach Blossom, and I am so in love with this. I cannot wait to be able to wear it. So this week I have, oh, sudden lighting change, apologies. I have added, so I have actually put in a progress keeper on this one to show where I was last time. So last time I was here, and I didn't have sleeves or neckband. So this week I have focused on adding in the sleeves and the neckband, and I think it's really, like, this also looks like a child's garment still, but yeah, it's really kind of finished off this top half, and I'm so excited to get the body done so that I can wear this, because I think it's going to be a really lovely piece for this kind of time of year, like underneath cardigan. As it's like, so the Filcolana Saga is a woolen spun 100% lamb's wool, so it's going to be warm, but because it's so airy, it's going to be really light. So I'm knitting this on 3mm needles for my main fabric, and then 2.5 for my ribbing, and I'm knitting at size 1. I would usually be a size 2 in a pattern, but because this relies on there being quite a lot of negative ease, I'm knitting size 1. Also, that's just where I am in the sizing of this one. Yeah, so knitting the sleeves was really good, fun. It's very similar to the techniques that I used to knit my husband's dad's sweater that I knit him for Christmas, and also the colour tip tee that I knit, I think it was in my first episode, but they were both patterns by Emily Curtis from Gently Chaotic Knits, and this is obviously from Iris by HIRISMAKES, but it's a like set-in sleeve construction, so you pick up stitches at varying rates around the sleeve, and then you knit short rows to shape the sleeve cap, and then once you've finished the short rows you just join in the round and knit a little bit more. But yeah, this sleeve length is so flattering on me. It comes to about sort of like here. Is it there? No, about there. But yeah, I really like a sleeve, like that kind of length sleeve. I don't like it really when the sleeves come down too far, like almost to your elbows. I feel like it needs to either be like a proper short sleeve, or it needs to be a long sleeve. Anything other than that, it kind of just feels a bit funky. But yeah, lovely sleeve length, lovely cables all down the sleeves, and just finishing off in the ribbing. I think my ribbing is slightly longer than the pattern. I think mine's about 2.5 centimeters and the pattern suggests 2 centimeters, but I prefer a 2.5 centimeter rib. So that is what I've done, and then I did exactly the same on the neckband and just added 2.5 centimeters of ribbing, and then tubular bind offs on everything, so it looks really nice and neat and gives a good amount of stretch. But yeah, really happy with how it's coming along, and now it's just easy breezy cables in the round down the body until I hit length. Yeah, so I will hopefully also have this done by the next podcast, and then I can wear it, which will be really exciting because I really want to wear it. Yeah, so I have had this on the needles for 26 days. I cast this on the 17th of January. So actually I think progress wise, because there were a couple of things that need to be sorted out in the sleeves, so I waited for Iris to make those edits to the pattern before I started my sleeves. I don't think I'm doing too badly on this, to be honest. It's quite an involved knit because it is all over cables and then obviously eyelets as well, which aren't difficult, but like there's different rates and the pattern is fully charted. And like I said before, it's not geared towards beginner knitters, it's geared towards intermediate to advanced knitters. So yeah, it's an involved pattern. It's not like round and round in stockinette. So yeah, 26 days I don't think is too bad. I think if I was knitting this monogamously, I would have finished it by now. And I think if it wasn't a test knit and I wasn't having to sort of like do all the things that a test knit involves, obviously go through, double check bits of the pattern and everything, then it'd probably take me less time. But I do still want to knit a second sample in a different yarn, a more summer appropriate yarn. But yeah, gonna move this Progress Keeper down. There we go. So yeah, moved that down and we can check on how far I am in the next podcast. Hopefully it's finished. Oh, this Progress Keeper came with my yarn from Pigment and Ply when I ordered from her Midnights collection in the pre-order. So I don't think it's available anymore, but yeah, that's what I'm using on there. So that was whip number 2. Whip number 3 is another Musselburgh, because I'm knitting every Musselburgh under the sun at the moment, and this one is for my husband, and this is also in Pigment and Ply yarn from her Midnights collection. However, I got this from her shop update, and I think I showed it last week. But this is a Musselburgh for my husband. It's not got very far, to be honest. I've just got past the increases at the crown, and oh, am I losing stitches? No. And I have knit about 2 centimeters, maybe an inch, since the increases. So that's the end of the increases, and that is where I am now. So yeah, about, I don't know, 2.5 centimeters, an inch or so. And this is using Pigment and Ply British Wool Alpaca blend, and it's a 40% blue-faced Leicester, 40% Shetland, 20% grey alpaca blend, and it's a 2-ply non-superwash base, and it's beautiful. So this is the colour Calmer as a Cat, from her Taylor Swift Midnights collection, like I said before, and it's just this beautiful sort of completely solid black, but it's got it's definitely got more of a brown undertone than another black yarn that I've got, which is definitely more grey. So I am using 3mm needles once again, and I'm getting 6.5 stitches per inch as usual, but this one I am knitting in the adult medium size, so it's slightly bigger than the one for my daughter. And the only difference between this one and the other ones that I am knitting is that I am going to be knitting this so that it doesn't have a folded brim. My husband doesn't want one of those, he just wants a standard hat with no folded brim. So I've got about 11 centimetres or so left. Oh no, actually, because I've knit more. I've got about 10 centimetres to go before I hit the halfway point, so this one should be fairly quick, but like I say, this is just like pick it up, knit a couple of rows and then put it down. And yeah, I really love how the increases look. I'm not sure it's going to be able to show because this yarn is really dark. But yeah, I love the crown. So my cast on, I use Nitty Natty's pinhole cast on tutorial, which she has a video for on YouTube. I will pop a link to it somewhere. It will definitely be down in the description. And which you'll find links for everything that I mention, all the yarns, all the patterns, makers, that kind of thing. All of that will be down below. And yeah, so it uses a crochet hook to cast on, but I find it really easy to do, and I think it works out really, really well. It means that you get this really tight hole. I don't know. Yeah, you get really tight cast on, so then you can pull it nice and taut, so you don't get a hole at the top of the hat. And I did the same. So yeah, this is my daughter's one, and as you can see, the cast on is really nice and neat and doesn't leave a hole in the top of the hat. I feel like it must be really boring hearing me talk about 4,000 different Musselburgh hats. But I cast that on the 11th of February, and it's been on my needle for 1 day. So quite a good amount of progress for 1 day's knitting, to be honest, to get through all of the increases and get an inch or so on the body of it. And so that was whip number 3. Whip number 4 is my socks for February. So if you are new here, then you might not know that this year I have decided to knit a pair of socks for each month of the year, and so I end up with 12 new pairs of socks. I would like to also knit more socks, but my baseline is to make sure that I get 1 pair of socks done for each month. So last month I did the wide rib socks by Summer Lee Knits, and this month I have done another Summer Lee Knits pattern. I did a poll on my Instagram to help choose which pattern to knit for February, and so this one came out on top. And these are my little dot socks. So like, oh, hang on, I'm all tangled. So like I said earlier, the polka dot theme is continuing, and so they look a bit like this. I've got quite far in these so far, to be honest. I didn't cast them on that long ago, but yeah, they look like this. And I am using Cascade Heritage in the colour Citron, which is this lovely kind of like lime green. When I ordered this, I thought this was going to be yellow, like a neon yellow, but it's not, it's green. And that's fine. And I am using alongside, so that is my main colour, and then my contrast colour, I am using Lang Jowl, Lang Jowl? I don't know how to say it. I'm going to say Jowl because it sounds right. I don't know. So yeah, I'm using Lang Jowl in the colour 830184. It doesn't have a colour name, it just has a colour number, but it is this like fuchsia pink, which it's coming out brighter on camera, I think. It's definitely more of like a blue toned pink. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying working with these. I have obviously used Cascade Heritage many times before, but this is my first time using the Lang Jowl, and I didn't realise when I ordered it that it comes with this spool of like reinforcement thread in the middle of it. So it comes like inside the, I've got another one of them here. It comes like inside the reel, and you can pull it out, and you can use it when you're doing your heels and your toes to like reinforce them to stop you getting holes. So I thought that was really interesting, and I've given it a go for this sock because I did wonder, because this is quite thick, it's not like a sewing thread. I wondered if it was going to change my gauge, and I don't think it has. I mean, it's definitely a bit stiffer in the heel where I've used it, but it's not noticeable, and I've tried these on and I can't notice it, so that's fine. But yeah, so I am knitting size 2, which is the adult small size. I'm using a 2.25mm needle, which is smaller than the pattern suggests. The pattern suggests using a 2.25 for the rib, which is a 2x1 rib, so knit 2, purl 1, which I've not done before on the top of a sock, and I think it looks quite nice. So yeah, the pattern suggests using a 2.25 for the ribbing and then a 2.75 for the colour work, but my colour work gauge is notoriously loose, so I have just stuck with a 2.25 and it seems to be working fine. I probably could have gone up to a 2.5, but my peachy pumpkin socks that I knit back in October, I knit them on a 2.25 and they fit really well, so I have stuck with that, and they do grow. I find that the Cascade Heritage does grow a little bit with wear, and I didn't really want baggy socks falling down, so I've stuck with a 2.25 for the whole of the body of the sock. The only modification that I have done is that the pattern suggests using an afterthought heel. Now, I don't like an afterthought heel. It does not fit my foot very well. They fall down, or it just doesn't stay up. Or it doesn't like stay put on my heel very well. So I have done a short row heel instead. So that just looks like this, and I use my contrast yarn because I thought it would be nice to have contrast heels and toes, and then I get to use the reel of reinforcement yarn and see how that goes. But yeah, I think it's worked out really well. I didn't have to change stitch counts or anything, so it was fairly simple to just substitute that in. It also means that I can try it on and get like the perfect length for my foot a little bit easier than having to do like work it out lengthwise with an afterthought heel, because I can never do that properly. I try and then I can never get it to work, and then I have to go in and change where it's going to go. So yeah, no afterthought heel, short row heel instead. And yeah, I cast these on February 9th, so these have been on my needles for 3 days, and I have reached about halfway down the, well, about 2/3 of the way down the foot. Ooh, I've lost a stitch, bear with. So yeah, not a huge amount of knitting left to do on sock 1, and then I'll be going on to sock 2. I always find that colourwork socks go much quicker than vanilla socks, but I guess it's like a striped sock probably goes quicker as well, because you're just going for the next, like I go, oh yeah, I'll just do one pattern repeat. And it's like 18 rows per pattern repeat. So I guess that just, it probably doesn't actually take me any less time. It just means that I knit for longer on them before I put them down. And yeah, there's no, I'll see if I can turn this inside out and show you the inside, because I always find it really nice to see the floats on colourwork. Oh, I bet the needles are going to get stuck now. So yeah, that's what it looks like on the inside. It's so cool. So yeah, those are my socks for February. And I've not decided what I'm going to do for March yet. I feel like I should probably do something with like lace, because I've never done a lace sock before, and as we're going into spring, I feel like a lace sock might be a nice addition to my sock drawer. So yeah, if you have any, what on earth have I done there? So in turning it out, I've managed to get the yarn to go through the middle, so I'll figure that out later. But yeah, if you have any lace sock patterns that you want to suggest, then do let me know down in the comments below, because I'm always on the lookout for more sock patterns. I will link again the sock bundle that I've been making that have got all of my like potential sock patterns that I found that I liked on Ravelry for like inspiration for this year of socks. And yeah, that was my socks for February, and that is all of my knitting for this week. I've just been plodding away on all of the whips that I've got going to sort of keep the momentum, but hopefully should have some more finished objects and maybe some new cast-ons for you next time. I have got a couple of acquisitions, one of them that I forgot from last week, and some others that have come in over the past 2 weeks. So carrying on from the fact that I am doing a year of socks, I realised that I needed some more sock yarn because I was running low and I didn't find any of the colours that were in my stash particularly inspiring. So I've ordered some new sock yarns. and some of the, well, in that order were the Cascade 220 and the Lang Jowl that I am using for my February socks. So those were both new in yarns, and then I also ordered a couple of extra colours in both of those. So I got, I can't remember what the names are of all of these, but I will try and pop them somewhere up here. So this is, I think I'm trying to remember what this is. So this is 5612, which I think is forest or something. That could be completely wrong, but yeah, it's this kind of like mid green. It's not quite as dark as the green that I used for my husband's Thanksgiving socks over Christmas, but it's, yeah, it's like a standard kind of forest green in the, so these are all the, sorry, these are all the colours that I got in the Cascade Heritage, and then I'll show the Lang in a minute. And then I got this red, which is 5607, which I also can't remember the name of. No, I feel like it might be just red or something. But yeah, it looks like this. It's quite a sort of Christmassy red. I do already have a red. I'm not sure. I just seem to be drawn to green and red at the moment. Just still on the Christmas vibes. And then I also just got a white, which is called white, but it's colour 5618. And yeah, just a standard white, because why not need, like, white is always a good sock yarn to have in stash. I've never knit like a fully white pair of socks, but maybe I will. And then I got the, obviously the fuchsia pink in the Lang Jowl, and I also got this like ballerina pink. And I really like the Lang Jowl. I think I will order more of it in the future to use for future sock projects. The only thing I don't like about it is it only comes in 50-gram balls, whereas the Cascade Heritage comes in 100-gram balls. Hanks. Doesn't really matter. But either way, yeah, I like 100-gram hanks instead of 50-gram balls. Because if you're going to knit a full pair of socks, then you need 2 of these, but only 1 of these. But it seems like everybody else has knit with this before, and I just hadn't tried it. So much prefer this over Arvetta. So I think, and I think they're around about the same price point as well. So I think if ever I am thinking, oh, I need a sock yarn, oh, and the colour range for this and also for the Cascade Heritage are really, really good. So I think instead of going for an Arvetta, because it's simple and easy and it's like, oh, it's just a classic sock yarn, I will probably go for the Lang instead, or the Cascade Heritage if I need more than 50 grams. And the one that I forgot from last week is this set of minis, which is from The Lonely Knitter, and it's her November club. I wanted to get another set of these, but unfortunately they are no longer available. But they were inspired by Frozen, and I'm going to use these to knit some more socks for my daughter. And these are all 20-gram minis. There's 5 of them, and they're 85 meters per mini, and it's her 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon base. And I just think these are really fun. My little girl loves them. We spent a good 20 minutes trying to figure out which one relates to which character from Frozen. And yeah, I think they'll be making some really lovely socks for my little girl. So that is that. And I think that is it for this week. I will be back again in 2 weeks. I would love to know what you are knitting. I'd love to know what you are wanting to cast on for spring, or if you've got any summer knits on the radar for the next couple of weeks. Yeah, if you have got this far, then leave me a little sock emoji. That's always fun, isn't it, when people do things like that. If you have enjoyed this video, then please do give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me, then please do consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel and everything, and helps spur me on to make more videos. And yeah, I will be back in 2 weeks with some more knitting to show you, hopefully some spotty finished objects and some more colourful knits. So I'm going to wrap this up now. But yes, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for hanging out with me, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. Happy knitting!